Good afternoon. Welcome to the fifth SHAC meeting for this year, and call this meeting to order at this time.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Manchester. So we want to start kind of where we started in the last meetings. And so I'm going to go through this kind of PowerPoint that we've been looking at one more time. We have a couple of people in the audience today that have not been, and so I want to give them the opportunity to know how we've been proceeding. And then we can get down to the business of what we are going to work on today. So I need to share my screen. Remember how to do that. That'd be awesome. How about the big green thing that says share screen? Okay, so just again, we have a process that's dictated by the state government. We have laws in place that dictate how human sexuality instructional curriculum materials are adopted. It starts off with a board policy. The board policy is based on our legal requirements, and then our local school district basically fills in the gaps of how are we actually applying that in Kerrville, Texas. So back in January, the board adopted a resolution that convened the School Health Advisory Council to adopt, or actually to recommend, curriculum materials that address human sexuality. And so the School Health Advisory Council, we know, holds a lot of authority in this process. We are required to have two open meetings, two public meetings. And those public meetings, we held two already. Today is actually the third, so we're exceeding the expectation for that. And then once the SHAC recommends curriculum materials, then those recommendations go to the school board of trustees. Our board of trustees meeting is on May 23rd, which is next Monday, and they will take action on whatever recommendations that are made today. And remember that with all this work that's done, it is still up to the parent to determine whether they will opt in to their child being involved in any instruction at the school level. And so remember, it's opt-in. It used to be an opt-out. So we used to send a letter to the parent and say, basically, your child's going to receive this instruction unless you tell us not to. The law has changed and our procedures have changed. But now it's basically, you have to tell us it's okay. We don't assume it's okay. And so even with all this being said, the parent's right is still very, very strong and firm in this process. So we remembered there's our SHAC meetings that we know we've done. We know that the curriculum materials must comply with instructional content within the law. There is state curriculum that they say this is what you should be teaching. So our materials have to comply with that. We have to ensure that the materials are suitable for the subject and grade level for which the materials are intended. And they must be reviewed by subject level experts in the subject and grade level for which the materials are intended. And for us, that means our teachers and our nurses were involved in helping us to select these materials that have been reviewed by the SHAC. Our policy tells us that when we're talking about birth control, we must present abstinence as the preferred choice. So obviously you can't get pregnant and you can't get a sexually transmitted disease if you're abstinent. And so that has to be the focus of any discussions regarding that. So you'll see on these first three bullets here, abstinence is stated again and again. As far as you have to pay more attention to it, it's the most effective way to prevent pregnancies, and it's the only effective way to prevent pregnancies and sexually transmitted diseases. It's a standard of behavior in which abstinence before marriage is the most effective way. And then finally, if the district is talking about contraception, that it is done in terms of human use reality rates instead of theoretical laboratory rates. And what that means is that in a lab, if everything is perfect, so for example, use of a condom in a perfect scenario, the condom is used properly, then you're going to get a certain rate of effectiveness. But in real life, when real people are involved, and that doesn't always get applied as it should have been. And therefore, we have a better chance of contracting a sexually transmitted disease or becoming pregnant, because nobody's perfect. Is really the way that logic plays out. So up to this point, we have reviewed the following materials. So Procter and Gamble, they had a girl film, boy film for 4th and 5th grades. That is it's a film that's really focusing in on what is puberty, what changes can you expect to have happen through that process, and then gets into other hygiene and just other things. The boys and the girls look at these films separately. They're not all in the same room together. And that is led by staff members at our elementary campuses. They see it in 4th grade and they see it in 5th grade again. Scott and White supplementary materials. Those are some materials that were previously approved, and teachers have said to us, we'd like to keep using some of these elements. You look at the bulk of all the Scott and White material we had over the years, we're using a very small percentage of that continuing on. Another resource that has already been reviewed by the School Health Advisory Council is it's called Common Sense, and it's a resource on sexting for 7th and 8th grade students to see. So basically it's talking about the number one, it's inappropriate. Number two, it's bad for your reputation, bad for your emotional, a lot of things emotional that can go wrong, and it's also can be against the law. That's something that our kids need to understand. And then today, we're here because we need to finish up by looking at the Goodhart-Wilcox. That is a textbook that was approved by the State Board of Education, and one that we are meeting today to look at and discuss. And so when I say look at, our council members have had access to these resources, and their homework was to read over these and look over these resources. So today, we are going to get into that. So for our parents that are here tonight or this afternoon, I will say that if you go to the Kerrville ISD website, and I want to show you where these resources can be accessed. I may have to stop sharing for a second because that just keeps popping into my way. So Kerrville ISD website, if you go to the homepage, this is the landing page of our website. Go to departments and services and then health services. And then from there, School Health Advisory Council. And then human sexuality curriculum. And there is a one-page sheet that gives access to the YouTube videos for the boy film. It gives access to the textbook materials by clicking here, username, password. Right now, those are available through May 25th. And Mrs. Engstrom, is there a possibility of getting that extended? So I think we should do that, extend that time. And then kind of showing which resources to look at as you're looking. So, and then this link right here takes you to those Scott and White resources that have been used in the past, and that we still want to use. So, go back to sharing the screen. All right, so today I'm just going to bring up the. I want to bring up these resources just so that we can companion text in those. Okay, so this is these are the chapters that we were looking at. So these are the middle school chapters. Chapter 17 is regarding puberty. Chapter 18, preventing and responding to violence. So this is where, if you remember last time we were talking about some anti-victimization kinds of topics. And so this is where you can find some discussion about that, making responsible sexual decisions and sexually transmitted diseases. And so let's kind of open the floor to discussion of any comments or questions or anything like that. I just realized I didn't ask you guys if y'all wanted to address this group. I apologize. apologize for not doing that. I said I was going to do that. Okay, so let's just kind of open the floor. Middle school, chapter 17, 18, 19, and 20. What are some of the questions that you guys have? Any concerns, questions? Remember that we want to ensure that whatever we are providing to our students as instructional curriculum is aligned to our community values, is appropriate for the age level that it is being taught to.
And this is 7th and 8th grade,
Yes, ma'am.
because you already just repeat it.
Well, they wouldn't, Heather, would they get it in 7th and 8th, or is this?
6th grade and 8th grade, the 7th grade students are in a small group. It's the students who are enrolled in a health class. And so some kids will actually get it twice, but it's a small quarter of students.
So they'll get it in 6th.
All students will get it in 6th. Some students will get it in the 7th grade if they're enrolled in a health class, and all students will get it.
In what class and 8th grade?
Going into next year, this is all possible. Talk to the teachers, figure it out. She'd rather be not stay publicly yet until she has a chance.
And up until now, it's been,
If she assures that all students will get it next year, they are pulling it out of the next year, but it is in core class. And they have not talked to the teachers to determine that. Last time I met, the committee mentioned that there are some students in 8th grade that are not in health. I've met with Ms. Gonzalez, who's a counselor, and Ms. Malthouse, and they have a list of those students. And they're assuring me that those students will be pulled separately and will get the content this year. But thanks to the help of the SHAC committee, we found that there was a little loop that we had closed. And so we have a plan for this year, but moving forward, we are taking out health and athletics next year.
So will all students in that class be exposed to that curriculum, or only the ones whose parents have opted in?
Only the ones that whose parents adopted it. So it is, I recently heard it's hard to get all of those forms back. Our goal is 100%, but of course, it's up to the parents. You're right. Only the parents adopted it.
And it is separated boys and girls, boys in one class, boys and girls in the other class. How is that? Is the plan to field this together, or will they be separated into boys and girls?
I believe the way it's currently is it's separated, and that is what Mrs. Allhouse is planning to continue for 6th grade and 8th grade. I'm not sure if the plan will help, and that's a good point. I'll have to look at that, because it's harder to separate in health when you have one health teacher. It's easier to put in the 4 when you have multiple teachers. Yeah. So thank you for bringing that up.
but even if we do split them, they will be, both boys and girls will be learning the same material, all of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Great question.
Yeah. Well, and the concerns I had at the last meeting in regards to, it touches on those things, but I felt better knowing, I read through all of the middle school curriculum, and it does very much so explain everything that, yes, and how these other kids slip through not knowing that information. I don't know how that is possible, but it happens. But that's, I mean, it's okay. I feel better and reassured knowing that curriculum specifically talks about that stuff. And I was happy to see that.
Who else has some comments?
So I noticed that they gave out, I guess, numbers or abuse hotlines in a couple of those chapters. I guess it was 17, 18 or somewhere in there. Then it got into talking about human trafficking and terrorism. And I didn't notice that they gave any kind of, materials or hotlines for any reporting for those.
That's good, Josh. I didn't notice that.
I didn't notice that.
What was the last part?
He said he didn't, he noticed that they didn't give out any information for a hotline for human trafficking but they did for abuse hotline.
Okay.
Yeah.
So through the Department of Homeland Security or DHS .gov, they have the free materials and posters, stuff like that for the See Something, Say Something campaign, and also for the human trafficking campaign, where they have an 800 number that's anonymous, and then also a text line as well.
And Josh, I think we can, as a system, we need to be more intentional. I believe that kind of information is in the student handbook, but I know.
Okay.
I know that, okay, sounds great, but people don't usually read the student handbook. I think probably the only person in Kerrville who reads the student handbook is me. I help to put that out every year, but I think that we need to be more intentional probably in our, just in general, not just within health and PE and those classes, but just information out there that is readily accessible to students. Because I think that it's a growing issue. And I think that I can tell you my understanding of human trafficking has changed over the last couple of years with information where it's not just about a person being transported from point A to point B for that a purpose of some sexual act. It's much broader than that, and it's about exploitation, and it can be exploitation that's occurring in the neighborhood or within your own home. And so I think we need to be more intentional outside of this discussion today.
Awesome, thank you.
Yes, sir.
One of the things I noted was the balance. I felt that was in all of those chapters, but starting with the real scientific terms, so real just straightforward, right? And then dealing with violence puts it in a place where you're also dealing with what ifs of recognizing that there are things that are out of the right boundaries. And then even the responsible decisions, there's a lot on abstinence there. But also I love the fact that there was that support for teen pregnancy. So also that coming after the care part of, all right, here's the information, but we all know that some teens end up pregnant. And so what are the steps that you need to be looking at and the information that you need? So to me, overall, very balanced in the approach.
Even on the emotional side. I think after you break up, what to think about before or after you break up, those things. I thought it was really good because girls guys get those things to think about it.
Right.
How it affects the rest of their life.
Giving appropriate amount of silence.
I think just middle school, I mean, this is just giving you facts, and it was good to give them, like you said, the science of it. But in the high school, you go a little deeper in the just further past science. And I was glad to see that, okay, we just stopped here. Healthy boundaries for middle school kids. Good job. That's where we need to be. I'll be honest, I don't remember if this was mentioned in the middle school portion, but in the high school portion, it really did open up the process of having a premeditated response.
Yes, I
to,
thought that was good. How to handle.
was it in the middle school curriculum as
I
well?
think it was in the middle school.
There was
It
some just like discussion and yeah,
boundaries.
what do you say? if this
Boundaries,
happens?
yeah, there's boundaries.
Then
and-
thinking my
I'm
own
in control.
process, what am I gonna do? How am I gonna do this?
Plan ahead.
Yes, exactly. Well,
Good.
we all know we have a default mode if we don't make a conscious decision on how we're going to do something beforehand, then you just go with the flow, right? And you don't want
Get you
that.
where you want to be.
Right.
Okay, are we ready to switch over to the high school table of contents so we can talk about that?
Hey, before we just switch over, I don't know how you choose. I mean, if you just get assigned to teach this, I don't know how that works, but so I asked if it was separate. Because I have difficult conversations all day long about difficult subjects like this. So the environment that is sitting in front of you of how you deliver the information or receive it is critical to whether you understand it or whether you believe in it. So having someone teach it that is comfortable with the content is also so important. So I don't know how you choose that or how you, but again, if they're uncomfortable teaching it and you have 40 girls in a room, you're toast. I mean, there is no, and I know everybody knows that, but if we really want them to get anything out of it, like whoever delivers it has to have a comfort level far beyond. And so I don't know how that gets chosen, but I just think that is to say.
And I do think it's important to separate girls and boys.
I mean, at least, I mean, I understand they need to see the same
questions.
information, I think they need to, but as soon as they see a picture and see the word sperm, that's it. I mean, you're, and the boy or girl, somebody's laughing and then you can't, then the poor teacher has to kind of stop and let's go, and I mean, so I think they have to be separate at least for a while. It just is, and you can get them back, I totally know you can, but it just, somebody's gonna laugh, somebody's gonna be weird and.
You gotta do that, yeah, move on, yeah, you gotta do
You have
that.
to do it, but somebody has to be comfortable enough with the content. So, all right, here we go. I mean, it's good.
I think the way you do that is, so I'll tell you what exercise that I engage in often for myself when I'm going into a conversation that I'm not, is I think about what are the what ifs. If somebody asks me this, what am I gonna say? And so I think that there needs to be some.
Premeditated response.
There you go, thank you.
Yes.
And so I think that we have to go, and this kind of came up last week or 2 weeks ago when we were talking about the girl fund, boy fund. We really need to be intentional of sitting down with people that are going to deliver this instruction and just kind of like, hey, let's think about, all the angles and all the directions this could go. And what are we going to say when that comes up? So
I think it's great information. It's great information. I need it.
But it's difficult to deliver, even in the medical field,
Yeah.
to grown adults,
Uh-huh.
let alone middle school kids.
Yeah.
That's.
And I think Wade's done a great job through our committee stating things that are very,
Very hard to
Yes.
Yeah. And we're trying to maintain this, but a 13-year-old has no. they're just-
no filter.
Right, not at all.
And so when the decision is made as to who's going to teach it, it probably is not going to be on a voluntary basis.
Right.
Like they're not going to volunteer to do it.
Right.
And so what Holly had suggested, I don't know if it was last week or the week before, in having them come together to do a training or discussion or to build each other up a little bit about I think that's very important for,
Or a debriefing.
for,
I mean, I don't.
yes, even after.
Like after.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh, let me tell you what happened. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, what happened to you too? Okay, great. Well, that's
Because
how you
these
do that.
kids are gonna ask questions that are not in that material, and you know it. And that's where it gets uncomfortable. It's like, let me just read the text. You can't just read the text in some situation. They're going to ask. And if they're comfortable, hopefully they're comfortable enough with you or whoever the instructor is, they will. That's what you want. You want them to be comfortable enough to say, I can't ask my parents this, I'm going to ask you that. And then that's success. But to get there, it's gonna be a hard thing to do.
I took a note. Make sure we are supporting those teachers and not just, here's your book, go teach kind of thing. All right. To the high school and companion text. Okay, so this one here, chapter 20, the beginning of life. And so we're getting, kind of see this as a, hey guys, one more time, we're going to talk about these things. So male reproductive system, female reproductive system, conception, pregnancy, birth. And then relationships and abstinence, violence prevention, there's that anti-victimization piece, and then sexually transmitted diseases. So some overlap from what we saw at the middle school, some new topics at the high school that we didn't see. So let's kind of same business. Let's go through, and anybody who has comments or observations or concerns or questions.
Again, chapter 12, really, that's the science of it. It's not different, which I think is fine, because you're not, but then you get a little bit, you dive a little bit deeper into the relationship aspect. Abstinence obviously is still number one. I did notice that they had a table, which was, I can't remember how it was phrased. And I didn't bring my computer.
What chapter was that?
You were looking at, chapter 20 had a table in it that talked about, no, it was 21. Yeah, it was 21, because it talked about if you abstinence was 0%, and then it went through, you know, STDs all the way down. It was towards the end of the
percentages of efficacy for different types of birth control.
Yeah, so
Yes.
that was a good chart.
I thought that was a really great chart. I will say that it doesn't mention anywhere else in the material what all of those things are.
Oh, what the
We
birth types are.
right,
Oh.
the types of preventative measures, because all we're going to teach is abstinence.
But a lot of that is supplemental through our work the way curriculum as well. And that's why the teachers said that we like this, but we feel like we want to hold on to our work the way material.
Yes. And I think that's important that we make sure that they have the information. Obviously, I feel like our community can support an abstinence-based program. But I know that once these kids get to college, they need to know, number one, you've got to decide that's what if abstinence is the way to go, that's what you're going to do. But if abstinence is not the way to go, that your choice, what are your options? And if the only thing we've given them is a table to say your options are that your percentages, I just don't know that and they're not going to get that information once they leave us. So that's the only thing. Yeah,
And I believe the teacher's still the same, and so that's why they said we really want to retain this part of
Yeah.
the goal.
okay, good to know.
I was trying to find that chart.
Yes, I don't remember where it was.
I remember seeing it.
I liked it.
Maybe
Okay.
23.2 possibly, but I'm not sure. 23 possibly.
Because it's preventing,
Sure.
I remember seeing it.
yeah.
I just, of course, we'll all go back to our computers after this meeting.
And it'll pop right up, I don't know.
Okay,
Well, you
let's
guys know what I'm
continue.
talking about.
yeah, we do.
So I'll go ahead and be that guy again. I know I asked last meeting why we, I guess as a district or as a committee, decided to hold off on teaching the emergency contraceptives. I know Ms. Ingstrom said the biology teacher didn't feel like it went with the district's values, which I can agree with that. I think in the wrong hands, that type of information can be very dangerous and misused. I guess my other side of that is shouldn't it be a tool in the toolbox for somebody who has experienced maybe an aggravated case or a rape case, or if we're choosing to teach, pills, patch, IUDs, that type of thing, aren't we misleading or lying by omitting another option out there?
I would turn that to, the committee, you guys, let's discuss that. And as administrators, we're making a recommendation, but you're also a committee or a council that has authority to say, you know what, I think that should be included.
Now, don't get me wrong. I think it all goes back to, it's definitely something that parents should be teaching and not necessarily us as a district. But again, if we're choosing to play the district or community values card, we've obviously already taken religion and things like that out of the mix by teaching other forms of contraception.
Yes, sir. So let's have a quick discussion. Does anybody?
I think everybody should know about it, but I also think whoever's teaching it would be in a very vulnerable position to.
Oh, absolutely,
and
definitely.
creating a scenario in the room that you can't get out of, like that there's opinion and fire and ugliness, or someone expressing an opinion in which they hadn't said it, or whatever it is, and then I think you lose the benefit of the conversation in general. I think everybody should know about it. I don't disagree with that. I'm not sure that middle school or high school students are mature enough to have productive conversation around a scenario like that.
I'm talking about the morning after.
So Josh, when you're saying that, are we talking morning after? Are you talking abortion?
No, ma'am. No, in my mind, we're talking the morning after, Plan B.
I think it just creates, because you'll have somebody that says it's the same thing, you'll have somebody that says it's not. Like, I think for an already uncomfortable situation, I think it puts politicalness in the room and you're.
Well, I think if we're going political mess, we're going down the same road with birth control and religion and Catholic religion, whatever like that. Scientifically, it's not the same as abortion. It hasn't, the egg hasn't fertilized. It hadn't had time to really even reach the egg. And, so it's only good for, again, that morning after. But again, if this is something that, that everybody is against, then everybody's against it. And that's fine. Again, it was a tool in the toolbox, just something that if we're going with all the other methods, why not?
Say something like, there are other methods available and I'm happy to talk with you about them after. Like if
Sure.
a student wanted to come up and ask a teacher, what are the other options available, then they could be told, what are the other
Sure.
options available.
What's our goal and mission what's our goal and mission for human sexuality curriculum for KISD? It is to teach them that what development of their body, male and female. It's to teach them about just human sexuality. It's to teach them about the science of their bodies, but also teach them how you get pregnant, how to prevent STDs. But isn't our goal really just to teach them the science of human sexuality or I guess it involves all of that because you're talking about sex, and that is at the end, you can get pregnant and I think you have to, I don't know, I guess I'm thinking, where is the cutoff of what we want to teach them and where do we go too far, right? What's our mission?
No, I agree totally. And I think the abstinence-based program is definitely the best and the key point of it all. But if you're going into other options of condoms and pills and patches and so forth, then why leave this one out?
Right.
I do from meeting with the science teachers who do teach the curriculum, Josh, at the high school, they're not given the, I guess the political nature of that option, they're not comfortable teaching it. And so they crossed it out and said they just don't feel comfortable. Now, if given a directive, of course they will, but they don't feel prepared, they don't feel comfortable to teach that as an option.
Okay.
Well, and I'll say this, as my daughter's going through the health occupations curriculum and doing health occupations in high school, junior year, when she came home and we had to have a discussion about patient rights. And the question was literally patient rights. And the scenario was, the patient was in the room, determined that she was pregnant, husband was in the waiting room. She wanted to know what her options were. And she asked specifically about abortion. Do you tell the father? And when the discussion went to its patient rights, the patient is the one asking. He's not in the room. You don't share information with someone who's not the patient. And she stood on that saying it's her right to know information and not tell it got political to the point where she was very upset that people thought that she believed in abortion, it called her baby killer, all that. So it gets political very quickly on it when you're not even talking about sex. So you're right. We don't want to put our teachers in a position where you can't back out of a situation and you don't know how to, because that didn't even have anything to do with sex. It was all, so it just was it gets quick, it gets heated fast. And
Sure.
these kids have an opinion, good God.
Oh, I mean, yes. I mean, everybody's got one, and just this is an opinion as well. But again, I think that whole slope is a slippery slope from the abortion talk to just birth control in general. Of who believes what and how that's believed. And so I guess my overall question or overall opinion is, now I do understand now that it is those science teachers that aren't comfortable getting to that position and making that talk, and that's fine. And if that's just something that we agree on, then that's something we agree on. And again, it's what's best for the community and what's best for our kids. I guess in the end, like, my biggest or only battle being a father of two girls is I wanted, I guess, overall to know that if something happened and they were too scared to come and talk to somebody about it or tell somebody about it, that they knew that if they were raped, if they were assaulted, whatever, that there was an option before they finally got the courage to come and talk to somebody.
Karen Ann, being a former school nurse, is that something that if a student came to you as a school nurse, would you or could you discuss with them? Like personally, one-on-one, if they approached you?
Discuss what specifically?
Like the plan B?
Like morning after emergency conversation.
Right.
But here's the thing, they have to know about it before they can speak to a nurse about it.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean,
And they have to be,
in a scenario.
No, so
and they have to have the knowledge in a certain amount of time to make that even effective.
Well, a lot of times I think girls will go to the nurse, or their friends will even go to the nurse for them, out of a concern that they might be, or they don't know what to do.
Not the next one.
Not the next morning for that option. And the truth is, I felt like as an employee of KISD, working as the school nurse at the high school, I needed to stick to the same story, the same curriculum I could only teach what they, or talk about what, because I never venture into anything more than, if they ask me a question, I would answer their question, but I never, I never try to give them options outside of what we teach in the health curriculum.
No,
And-
absolutely. I think that's super important that everybody's on the same
Yeah.
page and teaching the same thing and preaching the same thing.
Right, but if they
Talk to
ask,
parents, would that be reaching
well,
confidence
so,
as well?
so oftentimes though, the kids don't want me to talk to
Yeah.
their parents yet. So I would often say, I think what the best option here is that we have a conversation with your mom or dad or a trusted adult, and we can talk about options. So parents can tell them about those options, but as an employee of at KISD, never, ever would I chat with them anything outside of what we taught, because it just seemed to go against everything we taught, I mean, it would be like I'm teaching my own sex education class in the health clinic, and I feel like it was way outside of my scope of practice for KISD,
Josh,
and I wouldn't.
I'm thinking two things rolling around in my head. First of all, I've not known a girl, and I've worked with teen parents and pregnant teens. That's been one of my roles as a counselor at Tybee. I've not known one female student to come in the next day and say, oh my goodness, I think I might be pregnant. They think about that when they miss their menstruation cycle. But is this something, I mean, before we talk about the politicism of it or the option of it, is it something that a 15-year-old can walk into Walgreens and purchase by themselves?
I've actually,
Right, now I don't know that answer. No.
it may be,
It may be.
I swear I had a patient tell me she bought it, they would be counterfeit information.
Really?
Is there a,
But I'm not, I mean, I remember thinking,
is there an age limit? Do you have to be a certain age?
it may be behind the counter, maybe it's like Susan said, maybe it's back. I'm not sure. She was an adult, so I don't know, but I mean, I didn't send a prescription, she found it on her own,
Huh.
I don't know the answer.
so I don't know.
Yeah.
But I
I
think,
mean, it is over the counter. I don't know about an age. No, sorry.
I don't either.
Okay, so to move, I guess to move this through, or move it along, do we want to, I'm hearing mixed, I'm not sure I'm hearing any real clear direction on this. And so unless I'm hearing wrong, are we?
Yeah, I mean.
So I think this is a topic that we need to explore. And it's, you know, our task today is adoption of curriculum materials. Doesn't mean we can't revisit a topic later. And I think that, you know, one thing that I'm hearing resonating to me is just our teachers are feeling like it would, our high school teachers are feeling that it would put us or put them into a difficult situation. And obviously teaching this topic is difficult to begin with, but then I know that we are constantly, I mean, we can run into the same pitfalls in our social studies classrooms and science classrooms. And so I know we're highly attuned to trying to stay apolitical and fact-based. And this is, you know, I would hate, I don't think this is the time to put our teachers in a position of teaching something that they feel that they're telling us,
Right.
you know, hey, we're not, this is the limit, this is past the limit of where we want to go in our instruction.
And no, and that's perfectly fine. I can accept that and be good with it. I just, you know, thought it was at least a topic for
No,
discussion.
and I appreciate it, and I think that's why we have the council to discuss these things, and so it's not a waste of time. Certainly, I think anytime we're in a room talking together and exchanging these ideas, it is very worthwhile. So thank you for bringing it up, and I'm glad we had this discussion.
Along those same lines, I know that adoption was touched on in the high school curriculum.
Yeah.
And again, as the person who talks to kids often, that is an option that I feel comfortable presenting. Not, go here or go here, but just this is an option, and we have some good resources in our community who can present those further after students have, and I say students because so much of this is emotional and it needs to be worked through the parents. So after students have worked through those things with parents, there are resources in our community who can talk about adoption, but I feel like it's not a subject that we talk about enough. Maybe it is, and I don't feel like this is political. I don't feel like it's something that's inappropriate for schools because we have so many children who are very successfully adopted into wonderful families, and for whatever reason, I guess I just want to throw out there that I feel like maybe it's something we need to find some supplemental material for because it is a part of the process of pregnancy and not birth control, but birth.
And it is not political. In fact, if you're listening to, Roe versus Wade and what's going to happen with that in the Supreme Court, I mean, the proponents of repealing Roe versus Wade, you can put your child up for adoption. There's all these other options, but so I think that is I don't, and it's true. I mean, whether you're pro-life or not, adoption's an option.
Right. And that was a conversation that frequently was happening between counseling and nursing and Melissa Hayes when she did the child development class and all those girls. That conversation did come up often, actually, and they brought that to us. And it's not something that we were like, okay, here's X, Y, and Z. Here are your options, and adoption was one of them. But they wanted to talk about it often. So a supplement, I think supplemental, I think that's great. That's a great idea.
Okay, let's take any other comments or questions or concerns with any of these chapters in the high school book.
Ultimately, our job today is to say, these are the things that we agree can and should be taught in the district. If things like Josh is talking about, we feel like become more present or prevalent later, can be added later. Right now, these are the, yes, okay. Just so that we're not shutting things down forever.
Right, and I think that, and I'm telling Cheryl Manchester, she's kind of the co-chair of this committee. I would say next year in the spring, probably. When would be the right time? I'm looking at Heather to ask the question. When would be the right time for this kind of group to let's do a little bit of a review of how things went? It'd probably be this time next year, I'm guessing, or
How things went.
in our
Adoption.
in the application of these materials. So I know boy film, girl film doesn't happen until like this time of the year at the elementary campus.
High school.
Yeah, so I think that we probably it would not be a topic. It may not be a great topic for this. I mean, it may be like the last week of school would be because a lot of the stuff gets done in the spring. So maybe fall of 2023 that this should be a topic for SHAC to say, okay, we've had a year of implementation and it's one of our first meetings in the fall of 23 to say, okay, how did it go? Bring some of the teachers in, use these materials and discuss them.
So we're all committing to stay on the committee.
Well,
Is it 2 years ago? You're talking about the actual fall of 2023, not the fall of that school year.
Not the fall
Right,
of
but I
that
feel like
school
it's too late. I feel like we need to do it next year,
like in May,
like in May,
this time next year.
late April, early May.
We just want to make sure that we got all
Because
of
if
everybody.
you have to change something, it's too late. It's too long.
Okay, so let's change that. I think May,
Okay.
let's put a SHAC meeting at the end of May, or this time, May 16th. Today's May 18th. What are the Wednesdays? in May? I think
Go ahead and sit the end back.
Okay.
And then you get the teachers that actually taught it, they'll be doing I'll fire
Right.
That's right. Let me tell you.
Just tell us last week. How would you answer that? Because it's fresh, but yeah, like, they've had time to process it, but it's still fresh, but also we're not taking a chance of not having access to the teacher that taught it, because.
The teacher might change.
Yeah. But you also want your teachers to feel heard. That's the other thing. And so being able to let them come in to chat with us about it immediately after they've taught it, they feel heard. And if this is the committee that is helping to make those decisions, it's smarter for them to feel heard immediately.
Okay. Thank you. All right, I'll ask one more time. Any other comments, questions, concerns about chapters 20 through 23? Okay, so here's the next step. And please know that I am not telling you you have to do this. I'm just giving you a resource. And so this is the sample motion to approve. Basically, if someone wants to make the motion, we're literally going to need to read the whole thing. So, anyway, take a. So that's not what you. Where that came from. Okay, so take a minute.
Can you put it back on the screen of the shack flyer that was just so that you're sharing that with Josh as well, since he can't see this function.
Thank you.
Okay, tell me again, what do we want to look at?
The shack, the KISD shack flyer that you found on the that one. Mhm. So you can see all the pieces.
So
that
yeah,
we are
so
making motions
Josh, what
to
this is,
accept.
what they're being asked to do, or what they're having in front of them is a sheet of paper that's a motion to approve, and then kind of just going through the different materials. And so 4th and 5th grade, we will film Bid Park Wilcox materials that we've been discussing today. This resource right here, the Scott and White resources that have been used previously, and then of course, so that's what they're looking at, is that kind of a list.
I'm Josh.
I was gonna text it to you, Josh, but I only have Olga, so here we're gonna try and text it to you.
Just take a picture and text it to him.
Share your
I would say I think Missy has my number. If not, I'll give it to you.
Josh. I should get it. I think I have you, Josh.
Okay, so let's entertain a motion to approve, or basically a lack of anybody speaking up, maybe that we're not approving these materials, and we'll have some more work to do. But anybody wants to take that step forward?
Thanks.
Okay. I move that the School Health Advisory Council recommend the following human sexuality curriculum materials as presented in 3 public meetings held on April 27th, 2022, May the 4th, 2022, and May 18th, 2022, for adoption by the Kerrville Independent District Board of Trustees. Materials were the Procter & Gamble, Always Changing and Growing Up, Girl and Boy films for 4th and 5th grade students. Scott and White supplementary materials for 6th grade through high school. common sense media resource on sexting for grades 7 and 8. Good Heart Wilcox Health Books, chapters 17 through 20 for middle school, chapters 20 through 23 for high school.
So we have a motion and we have a second.
A second.
All right, so we have a second from Josh Paramore. Now we have an opportunity for any further discussion. Hearing none, let's, all in favor, please say aye, raise your hand. Josh, what is your vote, Josh?
Aye.
Aye, all right, thank you. Okay, so we have unanimous vote, and these are the materials that will be considered for adoption by the Board of Trustees. That meeting is on May 23rd. Mr. Paramore, is it true that you're going to be able to attend that meeting? That's what I've heard.
Yes, sir. I'll be there.
Thank you so much. And so we wanted a representative, a parent representative of the SHAC to be there. Josh is gracious enough to say he would be there. And Josh, I'll tell you, I don't anticipate that there would be any need for you to say anything or speak, but if there was a question that was asked that the board was wanting to hear a parent perspective on, and we would ask you to kind of step up to the podium and answer the question.
Okay, absolutely. Not a problem.
Representing the SHAC as a whole.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right.
Thank you so much for your service this year, and just know that some of you, or all of you I may be contacting in the fall, and maybe you can ask some of our members also, but I'll be in touch with you then, and I appreciate everything you've done, and it's time we'll adjourn.
All right, thank you very much. I'm going to hit stop recording and